Rain fell hard on the glowing streets of Lerny's colony, turning every road into a river of cold, silver light. The night was loud with thunder, but the loudest noise came from a single house at the edge of the district. Inside that house, an alien woman named Sira stood with shaking hands. Her eyes were full of fear, her heart full of pain. She had tried everything to hold her life together, but tonight, everything broke. Her husband, Barren, stood in front of her with burning anger in his eyes. He was a respected warrior in their colony, tall and proud, and he hated weakness more than anything. Sira lowered her head as he shouted again, his voice echoing through the walls. "You are Barren," he said loudly enough for neighbors to hear, "and a barren wife has no place in my house." His words felt like knives. Sira's hands touched her stomach without thinking, remembering the endless tests, the endless treatments, the endless humiliation she faced. She tried to speak, but the moment she lifted her head, Varric pushed her toward the door. "You failed me," he growled, "and you failed our clan." Before she could take a breath, he opened the door and dragged her out into the storm. Her bare feet slipped on the wet ground. Lightning flashed, showing the silhouettes of neighbors watching from their windows, but not coming out. In their eyes, Sira was cursed now, useless, disposable. Varric threw her small bundle of clothes onto the road and shouted one last time, "Do not return. You are cast out." Then the door slammed shut. The sound of that door felt like the end of her life. Sira stood in the rain for a long moment, unable to move. Her clothes were soaked, her hair stuck to her face, and her heart felt like it was breaking in slow, painful pieces. She bent down, picked up her bag with trembling hands, and began to walk. The streets were empty. The cold air stung her skin. Every few steps she stumbled, but she forced herself to keep going. She had nowhere to go. Our clan had removed her identity from the system. The shelters would reject her. The colony guards would ignore her. To them, she no longer existed. She reached a public shelter and placed her hand on the scanner. A red light blinked, and a voice spoke. "Access denied. Cast-out individuals are not permitted." Her head dropped. She walked again, slower this time, her vision blurry with rain and tears. She whispered to herself, "Where will I sleep? What will I eat?" But the storm took her voice away. The night grew colder. Her legs started to shake. Her breath became weak. She felt pain spreading inside her chest, and her steps became short, unsteady. She tried to reach a small bench near the road, but before she could, her knees gave up. She collapsed next to the road, her bag slipping from her hands. For a moment, she thought this was the end. Maybe the storm would take her. Maybe it was better than living in shame. Her eyes slowly closed as she whispered, "I am alone." But destiny had other plans. An old human hovervan was passing by on the same road. Inside were Evan, a tired but kind human single father, and his 4 small children. They were returning from a market trip when Evan suddenly pressed the brakes. "Kids, did you see that?" he asked softly. Through the rain, he saw a figure lying on the ground. Without thinking, Evan stepped out into the storm. The rain soaked him instantly, but he kept walking until he reached the collapsed alien woman. He knelt beside her and touched her shoulder gently. Hey, can you hear me?" he asked. Sira weakly opened her eyes. For the first time in her life, she saw a human's face that looked worried for her, not disgusted, not angry, just worried. Evan lifted her carefully. His children rushed out with an umbrella, trying to shield her from the rain. "Dad, is she hurt?" one child asked. "We need to help her," Evan said firmly. Sira felt warmth for the first time that night, not from the weather, but from kindness she never expected. As Evan carried her to the van, Sira whispered one thought in her fading mind. "Humans are not like we were told." Sira woke up slowly, feeling something soft under her cheek. For a moment, she thought the storm was still around her, but then she realized the sound she heard was not thunder, it was laughter, light, innocent, warm laughter. Her eyes blinked open, and she found herself lying on a small but clean couch covered with a warm blanket. The room was bright with soft yellow lights, filled with colorful drawings, small toys, and the smell of something cooking. It did not look like any alien home she had ever seen. It felt alive. A small human girl peeked at her from behind a chair, her face full of excitement and curiosity. When their eyes met, the girl gasped, "She's awake. Dad, she's awake." Sierra tried to sit up, but her body felt weak, so she stayed still. Soon, Evan walked in from the kitchen area, wiping his hands on a towel. His expression softened when he saw her awake. "Good morning," he said gently. "Not too loud, not too fast. You're safe here, don't worry." Sierra's fingers gripped the blanket. She looked around like someone who didn't want to break anything just by breathing. I am in your home," she whispered carefully. "Yes," Evan replied with a warm smile. "You fainted last night. Leaving you outside in the storm wasn't an option." The 4 children gathered around him, 2 boys, 2 girls. Their hair messy, their clothes mismatched, but their eyes bright with kindness. They stared at Sierra like she was the most amazing thing in the world. One boy stepped forward. "Are you an alien?" he asked boldly. Evan sighed. "David, we talked about manners." But Sierra shook her head softly. "It's all right." "Yes, I am." The children gasped with wonder, not fear. "Do you have powers? Do you eat light? Can you fly?" Evan gently pushed them back. "Give her space, kids." Sierra watched them carefully. No judgment, no disgust. Only curiosity and warmth. She had never seen children look at her like that. Evan sat on a small chair near her. "You were very cold and very weak," he said. "I had to bring you here." He gave you a blanket and some water. "If you want, I can make some breakfast." Sierra's throat tightened. She was not used to kindness. No one in her colony would have opened their home to a cast-out woman. "You should not help me," she whispered. "I am not worthy." Evan frowned slightly. "That's not true," he said. "Nobody deserves to lie in the rain." The youngest daughter crawled closer and placed a small stuffed animal near Sierra's hand. "You can hold it," the girl said shyly. "It helps when I'm sad." Something inside Sierra broke, something made of fear and loneliness. She slowly picked up the toy. It was soft and warm, like a tiny hug. Evan stood up. "I'll bring breakfast. You rest." As he walked away, Sierra watched him. She noticed how he moved, not with pride like her husband, not with anger like the elders, but with a quiet strength. He was a father who did everything alone. She could see the tiredness around his eyes, the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, but he still smiled, still cared, still cooked. The children stayed nearby, whispering to each other about their alien guest. Sierra felt confused. She didn't understand this family. Why were they so gentle? A few minutes later, Evan brought her a warm bowl of soup. "It's not fancy," he said, placing it on a small table, "but it will help." Sierra took a cautious sip. The taste was simple but comforting. It warmed her chest. "Thank you," she said softly. "I do not know why you helped me." Evan shrugged. "It's what humans do," he said lightly. "We help when someone needs help. And right now, you need help." Sierra looked at the children playing on the floor, laughing, chasing each other, filling the small home with noise and joy. A strange feeling grew inside her. Something she had never felt in her own house. Was this what a real family looked like? Not perfect, not silent, not cold, but warm, loud, alive. Sierra leaned back slowly, letting the warmth surround her. For the first time since being cast out, she didn't feel empty. She didn't feel cursed. She didn't feel alone. She felt something she never expected to feel again: hope. For the next few hours, Sierra rested on the couch while the storm outside slowly faded. She watched Evan's children play, argue, laugh, and run around the small home like wild stars. Every sound felt strange to her, yet strangely comforting. She had never seen a home so alive. But peace never stays for long. As evening arrived, Sierra felt a heavy weight in her chest. The shadows of her past followed her like cold breath on her neck. She sat up, her hands shaking slightly, and stared at the floor. Evan noticed immediately. "You're thinking about something," he said softly, taking a seat nearby. Sierra stayed silent for a moment. Her voice came out quiet and tight. "My husband, my people. They will not stop talking about me. They will say, I am cursed. They will tell others to avoid me." Their words spread fast. Evan leaned forward. "Words can't hurt you here." But Sierra shook her head. "You do not understand humans like you think," she whispered. "In my world, words destroy lives. A cast-out woman becomes nothing. People will cross the street to avoid my shadow." Evan frowned, confused and troubled. "That's..." Cruel Sierra lowered her eyes. "It is normal there." The children were drawing pictures on the floor, completely unaware of the painful conversation happening above them. The youngest boy proudly showed Sierra a drawing of their family hymn. His siblings, Evan, and something that looked like a tall alien with long hair. "That's you," the boy said happily. "You're tall like a superhero." Sierra blinked. She felt tears forming, but she did not let them fall. "I am not a hero," she whispered. "You don't have to be," the boy replied, skipping away. Evan watched the interaction quietly, then spoke again. "You're safe here, Sierra. My home may be small and messy, but no one hurts people under my roof." His voice had a strength she didn't expect. Not loud, not threatening, just solid. Unbreakable, but Sierra's fear was deeper than that. "What if they come looking for me?" she asked. "What if your people blame you for helping me?" Evan shrugged. "Let them come. I've dealt with worse than angry neighbors." That calm confidence made her chest warm. But fear still twisted inside her like a knot. "My husband spread lies about me," she said. "He told the elders I hid my weakness. He said I wasted years pretending I could give him a child. They all believed him." Evan's jaw tightened. "Did you hide anything?" "No," she said quickly, pain rising in her voice. "I tried every treatment. I took every medicine. I went through pain for years. And still, he blamed me." Evan took a slow breath, trying not to show anger, but she could see it in his eyes anyway. "You gave everything," he said, "and he gave you nothing back." Sierra nodded slowly. "That is my life. Or, it used to be." Silence fell for a moment. The children were now building a tower from old blocks. They giggled each time it wobbled. That innocent joy made the room feel warmer. But then a loud noise echoed from outside, a deep electronic beep. Sierra froze. Her breath stopped. Her eyes widened in pure fear. Evan looked toward the door. "What was that?" "It's a colony announcement drone," Sierra whispered. They are broadcasting something." Evan stood and opened a small window to look outside. A drone hovered over the street, projecting a message onto the nearby building. Sierra's face turned pale as she read the glowing symbols from afar. "Cast out identified. Extreme. Caution advised. Do not offer shelter. Evans." Expression hardened instantly. "They're announcing you to the public." "Yes," Sierra said weakly, her hands trembling again. "Anyone who helps me becomes an enemy of the colony." The children didn't understand the meaning. But they sensed Sira's fear and huddled close to their father. Evan closed the window firmly. "You're staying here," he said with finality. "But no," he cut in gently. "You're not going anywhere. I don't care what their message says." Sira stared at him, breath shaking. "You will risk your family for me. A stranger. A barren alien." Evan stepped closer. "You're not a burden. You're a person who needed help. And that's enough." Sira's eyes filled with tears she could no longer hold back. In her world, she was nameless, worthless, abandoned. But in this small human home, surrounded by children's laughter and warm lights, she was seen. She was safe. She was human in the ways that really mattered. Her past still cast a dark shadow. But now, there was a human standing in front of that shadow, refusing to let it swallow her again. The next morning began softly. Sunlight slipped through the small windows, warming the walls of Evan's home. The storm was gone, but inside Sira's heart, a different storm still lived. She sat quietly at the edge of the couch, watching the human home around her come to life. Evan was already awake, preparing breakfast with sleepy eyes. His 4 children moved around like tiny planets orbiting a tired sun, bumping into each other, laughing, arguing, asking questions before brushing their teeth. It looked chaotic, but it felt safe, warm, alive. Sira had never seen a father do so much. He poured milk, packed lunches, tied shoelaces, wiped faces, broke up arguments, and somehow still smiled at all of them. Every action was small, but the love behind it was big. Sira watched quietly, feeling something strange in her chest. "Do humans always do this much?" she asked softly. Evan chuckled, rubbing his eyes. "Single dads have to," he said. "There's no one else to lean on." Sira lowered her head. I was never allowed to help. My husband said a wife must stay silent unless spoken to. He did not want my hands anywhere." Evan paused. He turned to her with gentle eyes. "Here, everyone helps when they can. Strength isn't about dominance. It's about carrying those who need you." Those words touched a place in Sira she didn't know still existed. When breakfast was ready, the children sat at the table and pulled out an extra chair for her. "Sit with us." One girl insisted. "Yes, sit here," the youngest boy said, patting a spot beside him. Sira hesitated, unsure if she belonged, but Evan nodded toward the chair. "You're welcome here." She took a deep breath and sat. The food was simple, but it felt like a feast to her. Warm, comforting, shared without judgment. The children talked to her between bites. "Do alien planets have pancakes? Do you glow in the dark? Can you teach me your language?" Sira had never seen such curiosity without hate. She answered softly, sometimes smiling without realizing it, but deep inside, fear still pulled at her thoughts. When the children left for school, Evan came back inside and sat across from her. The house finally became quiet. "You're scared," he said gently. "Yes," she whispered. "I fear that my presence will bring danger to your family. My husband, my clan. If they discover I am here," Evan leaned back, crossing his arms calmly. "Let them discover it." Her eyes widened. "Do not say that. They are powerful. They have the right to punish anyone who helps a cast out. But they don't have the right to control my home," he replied, his voice steady. "This is human territory. Our rules, our choices." That quiet confidence again. Not loud, not violent. Just firm like a stone that doesn't move even when pushed. Sira felt her breath slow slightly. "You do not understand the risk, and you don't understand how far I go to protect the people under my roof," Evan said calmly. "I may look ordinary, but I've stood in worse fights." There was a strength in him she could not describe. It wasn't the strength of warriors who shouted and showed their muscles. It was a strength that came from responsibility, from caring for lives alone, from never giving up, even when life was heavy. Sira had never known that kind of strength. She had known only harsh strength, cruel strength. The strength of people who break others to feel powerful. Evan's strength was different. He stood up and started cleaning the table. "You can help if you want," he said casually. Sira blinked. "Help you?" "Yes," he replied, handing her a towel with a small smile. "Only if you want. But here, helping means you're part of the home." The words hit her deeper than he realized. She stood slowly and held the towel. Her hands shook at first, but she began to wipe the table. Evan washed dishes. They worked side by side in silence. But it was a comfortable silence like to people who didn't need to prove anything to each other. When they finished, Evan looked at her with a soft smile. "See, already making this place better." Sira looked at her own hands, amazed that she had done something useful, something allowed, something appreciated. "I feel strange," she said quietly. "Good strange or bad strange?" "I do not know yet," she whispered. "But it feels warmer than fear." Evan nodded. "That's how safety feels." Sira sat back on the couch, her heart calmer than before. For the first time, she wasn't thinking about her husband. She wasn't thinking about the colony. She wasn't thinking about punishment. She was thinking about this home, this human, this gentle strength that protected without controlling and deep inside her chest. Something new began to grow, something tiny but bright. Trust. The next days passed in a strange mix of peace and quiet fear. Sira helped around the house, learned the children's names, and even started to understand their jokes. She still felt like she didn't belong, but every day the feeling slowly softened. Evan treated her with the same calm kindness, never rushing her, never questioning her worth. But peace never lasts long. On the fourth morning, Sira felt a sudden chill run through her. She was helping Evan fold laundry when her skin grew cold. Her instincts trembled, the instincts of a woman who had spent years living under fear. "They found me," she whispered. Evan looked up from the shirts. "What do you mean?" Before she could answer, a heavy knock hit the door. 3 loud hits. Sharp like metal striking metal. The children jumped in fear. "Dad, who is that?" One asked. Evan stepped in front of them protectively. "Stay behind me." Sira's hands shook. Her throat tightened. "It is him," she whispered. "Varric, my husband. He came." Evan's jaw tightened, but he didn't look afraid, only alert, steady, controlled. The door rattled again. "Sira." A deep voice roared from outside. "You dare hide in a human house? Show yourself." The children clung to Evan's shirt. Sira took a step back, shrinking like she used to inside Varric's house. Pain rushed into her chest. Her lungs felt tight. Evan placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone," he said softly. Then he walked toward the door. He opened it slowly. Varric stood outside, rain dripping from his armor. His eyes burned with fury. Behind him were 2 colony guards, both taller and stronger than humans. The neighbors peeked from windows, whispering among themselves. Varric pointed at Sira without stepping inside. "You will return with me," he growled. "Now you broke clan law by leaving your place." Sira forced words out, voice shaking. "You cast me out. You threw me away." Varric's jaw twitched, embarrassed that she said this in front of others. "You are Barren," he snapped. "You ruined my reputation. But you will come back and stay silent like a proper wife." Evan stepped between them immediately. "She doesn't belong to you." Varric looked at him with disgust. "This is not your matter, human. Move aside." Barren women are property. Broken property returned to the clan leader. Evan didn't move. "My house. My rules. And no one enters unless I allow it. Varric laughed in disbelief. You, a single human father. You think you can stand against a clan warrior? Yes, Evan said simply. His voice wasn't loud, but it held something unshakable. The children huddled behind Sira now, peeking from the hallway. They were scared, but they refused to leave her. Varric's eyes narrowed as he saw Sarah standing near the children. You dare hide with humans. You shame our species. Sira felt her fear spike. Her legs trembled, but she didn't collapse. Not this time. She looked at Varric's hard face, at his cruel eyes, and something inside her began to change. Evan spoke again. She is safe here. She chooses where she wants to be. Varric slammed his fist against the doorframe. She has no choice. She belongs to the clan. No, Evan said sharply. She belongs to herself. Silence hit the doorway like a sudden wave. Even the guards hesitated. Sira stared at Evan, stunned. No one had ever said that for her. No one had ever believed she had the right to choose her own life. Varric stepped forward, ready to force his way inside. But Evan moved faster than anyone expected. He didn't threaten. He didn't shout. He simply closed the door halfway and placed his hand on it. You will not enter my home, he said. The guards looked unsure. They weren't allowed to step onto human property without diplomatic permission. Varric growled in frustration. You will regret this, he hissed. I will report you to the council. I will get permission to remove her by force. Evan didn't back away. Do whatever you want. But until then, she stays here, safe. Varric glared at Sira one last time. You have brought shame to our clan. Remember that. Then he turned away and marched down the street with the guards. The moment the footsteps faded, Sira's knees weakened. She covered her mouth and breathed in short, trembling bursts. Evan came beside her. You're safe, he repeated gently. Sira shook her head. You don't understand. He will come back, and he will come with permission. Evan placed a hand on her shoulder again. Then let him. I'll still stand in front of you. Her heart broke open, not from pain this time, but from something she thought she would never feel again. Someone willing to protect her. Not because she was useful. Not because she was a wife. But because she was a person. The children came running, hugging her legs. We won't let anyone take you, they cried. Sira looked at them through tears for the first time. She felt the strength of a real family, not of blood, not of species, but of love. The house felt quiet after Varric left. But not the peaceful kind of quiet. This silence was heavy, full of worry and unspoken fear. The children stayed close to Sira, as if they knew she needed comfort. Evan sent them to their room gently, promising everything would be fine. Then he turned to Sarah. She stood near the window, staring at the empty street where Varric had disappeared. Her hands pressed against the glass, her breath slow and broken. He will return, she whispered. He always returns when he wants control. Evan stepped beside her. But this time, you're not standing alone. Sira looked at him, eyes shining with fear. I am afraid. Not for myself, but for your children, for your home. My presence brings danger. Evan leaned against the wall, arms crossed in his calm, steady way. Danger doesn't scare me. Losing someone who needs help, that scares me more. His words hit her heart like a soft, unexpected blow. She closed her eyes. Why? She whispered. Why do you help me? Evan shrugged lightly. Because someone has to. Because you deserve a safe life. Because my kids already love you. And because you deserve better than what your old life gave you. Sira swallowed hard. No one has ever said such things to me. You deserved to hear them long ago, Evan replied. The house felt warm despite the fear. The smell of breakfast lingered in the air. Simple human things. But things she had never known: kindness, safety, family. Sierra walked to the couch and sat slowly. "I do not want to go back," she said softly. "But the council? They may force it. They can override territory rules." Evan sat beside her. "And what do you want?" "Forget the council. Forget Varric. Forget fear for a moment. What do you want?" No one had ever asked her that before. She looked at her hands, then around the messy but warm home, then toward the hallway where the children were whispering. Her voice trembled when she answered. "I want this," she said. "This home. This noise. This warmth. Your children's laughter. Your kindness. I want to stay here." Evan didn't smile. He didn't react too strongly. He just nodded, as if her answer made perfect sense. "Then you'll stay." Sierra's breath hitched. "It is not so easy." Evan shook his head. "It's not complicated either. If you want to stay, I won't let anyone take you." She stared at him in disbelief. "You would fight for me?" "I already did," he said softly. Sierra felt something blooming inside her chest, something she never thought she'd feel again. She was beginning to understand why humans were feared and respected across the galaxy. It wasn't their weapons or their strength, was their hearts. Hours passed. The day moved slowly. But Sierra felt herself changing with every minute. Later, when the children returned to the living room, they sat beside her. One placed his small hand on hers. "Are you going to live with us forever?" he asked. Sierra didn't know how to answer. She looked at Evan. Evan spoke for her, his voice gentle. "She'll stay as long as she wants." The children cheered, hugging her. Sierra felt tears slip down her cheeks, but did not hide them this time. Night came again. The house glowed with warm lamps. The children were asleep. Sierra stood by the window once more, watching the peaceful street. Evan approached quietly, thinking again. "Yes," she whispered. "I think too much. Tell me." She turned toward him, her voice soft but sure. "I choose this home. I choose your family. One, choose myself." Evan let out a slow breath. "Then, whatever happens next, we face it together." Sierra stepped closer. "My people called me Barren. Empty, worthless." She touched her chest lightly. "But here, with you, I feel full, not empty anymore." Evan met her eyes. "You were never empty, Sierra. You were just never seen." She trembled gently at those words. For the first time in her life, she wasn't someone's burden, someone's property, someone's shame. She was part of a family, a real family. A loud, messy, loving human family. And she chose it, not out of desperation, not out of fear, but out of love. Not romantic love. Not yet, but the love of belonging. The love of finally being valued. Sierra took a deep breath and whispered, "I will not return to him, even if the council comes. This is my home now." Evan nodded without hesitation. "And no matter what comes, I'll protect it." Tanju. Outside, the wind carried the scent of night. Inside, Sierra felt protected for the first time. She had chosen her family, and for the first time in her life, she chose herself too. Morning sunlight filled the small home like warm water spreading across a quiet lake. Sierra opened her eyes slowly, hearing gentle human noises, Sivan preparing breakfast. The children laughing softly, the clatter of plates and spoons. It felt unreal that she was here, part of this morning, instead of waking in a cold colony where she was treated like a burden. She sat up, wrapped in a blanket. Her heart no longer felt heavy. The fear was still there. But now it was mixed with something stronger: courage. When she stepped into the kitchen, The children cheered. "Sira, you're awake. Come eat. With us, we saved you a seat." Evan looked up from the stove, smiling in his quiet, steady way. "Good morning. We made breakfast, and nobody burned anything today." "A miracle," Sira laughed softly. It felt new, like a part of her voice she never used before. She sat at the table. The smell of warm food filled the room. The children talked over each other, telling stories from school, asking Sarah if she dreamed about space monsters or glowing planets. She answered with gentle smiles and patient words. For the first time in her life, she felt welcomed. After breakfast, the children rushed outside to play. Evan stood next to Sira at the doorway, the sunlight touching both of them. "You slept better," he said. "Yes," she replied, "because I no longer fear being thrown out." Evan nodded. "You're not leaving unless you want to." She looked at him, her eyes soft. "I do not want to leave." He met her gaze with the same calm strength he always carried. But peace never stays simple. By midday, a transport vehicle entered the street. It was silent and official-looking, carrying the emblem of the Alien Council. Sira froze. Her breath quickened. "They came," she whispered. Evan placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "Stay behind me." Two alien officials stepped out, both older and more formal than Varric. They did not carry weapons. Instead, they approached with slow, respectful steps. Sira trembled, but their expressions were not angry. "We came to speak," the elder one said calmly. "Not to take." Evan stood tall. "She is under my protection." The elder nodded. "We know. That is why we came peacefully." Sira stepped forward slowly. What do you want?" The elder looked at her with a long, thoughtful gaze. "You were cast out in public. This caused shame to your former husband, but shame to us as well." Sira blinked in surprise. "To you?" "Yes," the elder said. "The council reviewed your case. We found no fault in you. Your husband used the law to hide his own dishonor. He will face consequences." Sira's heart stopped for a moment. Varric punished. Her suffering finally seen. The elder continued. "And as for you, you will not be forced to return. You are free, entirely free." Sira's breath broke. She covered her mouth, tears rising quickly. Evan looked at her with warm pride. "You're safe," he whispered. The officials bowed slightly and turned away, leaving without entering the home. No threats, no force, only freedom. Sira stood in silence, her whole body trembling not from fear, but from relief so deep it almost hurt. "You're free," Evan repeated softly. She turned to him, tears falling openly this time. I do not know how to begin a new life." Evan smiled gently. "Start here. Start small. Start with us." The children ran back from outside, surrounding Sira with happy voices. "Are they gone? Did they try to take you? Are you staying with us forever?" Sira knelt, pulling them into a hug. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm staying." Later, as the sun set, Sira helped Evan with dinner. She washed vegetables, chopped them carefully, and laughed when the youngest spilled flour everywhere. Their hands brushed lightly as they worked, not romantic yet, but filled with comfort and trust. When night came, Evan stepped outside to close the door for the night. Sira followed him, standing under the stars. "Are you scared now?" he asked. She shook her head. "No, because I have something I never had before." "What's that?" She looked at the small home behind her, messy, loud, warm, full of love. "A family," she said. "A real family." Evan nodded, his eyes soft. "And you're part of it." The wind moved gently around them. The stars shined bright. The night felt calm, finally calm. Sira had lost everything once. But here, in a small human home, She found something greater, a place to belong, a family who cared, and a future she chose with her own heart. Her new life had begun.